amazingly offensive, challenging you to think offensively, challenging you to be a part of the team. This is not regular interference. This is offensive interference. With the baldest man in entertainment, me, Nick Cellini. And welcome to Offensive Interference. Joining me today, he's a raconteur. He is the man about town. He works for 790 The Zone. I've heard of that station.
Yeah.
He is John Newton. I actually, from what I understand, I was going to say you sit in my seat in the morning, but it's no longer my seat and you sit in steak seat.
That's
Do you
correct.
not right in the middle?
Yeah, it's steak seat.
Do you suddenly have the desire to talk like this?
I've developed a sense of arrogance about myself for whatever reason. I have no idea where it came from.
You feel rich and entitled. I kid because I care. Anyway, thanks for coming by, John. We
Absolutely.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
You're a huge Georgia fan, and we're going to hear from Aaron Murray in just a few minutes. I was out in Athens earlier in the week, and an extended conversation with tight end Arthur Lynch. That's coming up a little bit later on, too. Can't get a feel for this game. Everybody I've talked to said Clemson's going to win this game. But I can't get a feel for it.
I can't really get a feel for it either, although my early lean was that Georgia should be able to win this game based on the fact that they have a running game that we know is proven and Clemson does not. Andre Ellington isn't back. DeAndre Hopkins isn't back. Yes, their offense is pretty much based on Taj Boyd to Sammy Watkins, but you never know. We saw last year with a young Georgia team, nobody knew that Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall were going to do what they did early in the season either.
8:22 kickoff on Saturday night, and Mark Richt said it to open up his press conference on Tuesday. Clemson's goal is to run 90 plays. That's absurd. That's beyond a lot.
Well,
that's absurd. That seems impossible.
Chad Morris is the hot thing in college football as far as offensive coordinators are concerned, and I would be shocked if he makes it through this season without getting hired to a major college football program to be their head man. But Clemson's lucky to have him right now, and they definitely do have one of the more high-powered offenses in the country. I just don't know if they have enough pieces to be able to beat Georgia tick for tack. I mean, you look at Georgia's defense, a lot of people point to the fact that, well, you lost Jarvis Jones, you lost Alec Ogletree, you lost John Jenkins on the defensive line. Yeah, but you also got a bunch of younger guys, whether it's Amarlo Herrera or Jordan Jenkins, who Ray Drew, have a chance to make a name for themselves early in the season and help themselves get to the next level. They haven't found that household fame, that stardom that those other guys had going into last year. I think you've got a hungry defense that should be able to get pressure on Taj Boyd and kind of confuse this offense a little bit. If Todd Grantham can get the right game plan in place, that's the key.
The problem is you've got these young safeties, and Coach Rick said it on Tuesday as I was there for the press conference. The problem is when you're dealing with a young defense, well, first of all, you're dealing with the unknown factor. Secondly, if things start to go bad early, is it going to snowball for this defense?
Rick said it best. I think he was asked at the press conference yesterday about the defense, and he said, I don't know what they're going to give you. I really don't know. And I thought that was a very honest comment from Coach Rick because none of the fans know either. And I think the fans were expecting kind of a vote of confidence from Coach Rick, and he said, we'll see, which I think is completely fair. We don't know. It is a lot of guys who we haven't seen get a ton of playing time. But let's be honest, Georgia's bread and butter this year is going to be with their offense. It's Aaron Murray coming back for one more season. It's Malcolm Mitchell. It's Todd Gurley. It's Keith Marshall. By the way, look around the SEC. The coaches voted. First team All-SEC in the preseason running back, well, that's Todd Gurley. Third team running back, that's Keith Marshall. You've got two of the three best running backs in the SEC on one roster. Clemson's defense last year against the run, 60th in the country. That just, to me, equals a win for Georgia. Now, I've been wrong a good bit of times, though.
Well, I've been wrong, too, especially when it comes to opening up the season for Georgia. I thought they were going to beat Oklahoma State. They lost.
Yep.
I thought they were going to beat Boise in the Dome. They lost. So who knows what's going to happen in this game. But talking to all of the so-called experts out there, they feel like even if they lose this game, all is not lost, provided they bounce back the following week against South Carolina.
Well, Dabo Swinney said it yesterday that you can get by. This game is just one game of the season. That's how we're treating it, even though it does seem like a huge game, and Georgia's had plenty of them. You mentioned them all in the last couple of years. I was distraught as a Georgia fan last year when they got pummeled by South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina on October 6th. I left the game at halftime. I'm almost ashamed to say that.
You drove home.
I drove home
from Columbia
in the
to
middle
Atlanta.
of the night.
You left people behind.
I did.
Friends and family, and drove home by yourself. Did you listen to the game as you were driving?
No.
Or did you just sit in total silence?
No,
Mumford and Sons or anything? I know how you like. I know how you like Mumford and Sons.
But no, I left the game at halftime, and after that, everybody at work said, "Well, they'll be fine." I said, "No, fine. That's it. That's the end of the season." Lo and behold, we're able to bounce back.
Well, we bounced back. We did our best.
An early season loss to an out-of-conference opponent isn't the end of the world, but it would be a great way to kick off the season to beat a top 10 team for either of these teams. Although I do think Clemson has more to gain from winning this game than Georgia does. If Georgia wins, they were supposed to beat Clemson.
Because it's the ACC against the SEC.
Precisely.
Even though Clemson beat LSU in the Chick-fil-A Bowl last year, it's still the ACC against the SEC. I think, to me, you're right. The solution in this game, if you're going to have success to the problem that Clemson likes to run a lot of plays for, Georgia is going to be running the football.
Control the clock.
And keeping that Clemson offense off the field, because you've got a young defense. And I asked Coach Richt about rotating players in and out. You're going to have to do that against this offense, and you don't have a lot of experience on the defensive side of the ball, so that could compound the problem.
You also don't have a ton of depth in the secondary position. They've been extremely banged up during camp, during summer. And, Trey Matthews, a guy who Georgia's going to rely heavily on this year as a freshman, he's been banged up. He just returned to practice yesterday. So the secondary's thin. You're not going to be able to rotate probably as many guys, like you said, in as you want. But it is going to be tough to keep up with the pace of Clemson. But like you said, keep running the football. Use Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall, who Rick told us last week, Todd Gurley's gained 10 to 15 pounds, and Keith Marshall's put on as much, if not more weight. They say Keith Marshall doesn't look like the same player.
I did not. I saw him 2 weeks ago, did not recognize him. In fact, Aaron Murray, I asked him about Keith Marshall in the conversation you're going to hear right now. You've been around this program now for 5 years. What's the attitude, the difference in attitude you sense going into this opener versus openers in the past?
A lot of excitement around the build, a lot of excitement, within the team, just knowing that, hey, we got to be in midseason form come week one. We got to put in more time and effort into, the summer conditioning and workouts and the camp and making sure we're in midseason form come this Saturday.
You have to focus on what you have to focus on, but Coach Rick said during his press conference, maybe, just maybe, that unknown factor is there defensively. Did you anticipate, or do you anticipate maybe a shootout in this one?
I hope not. I hope our defense goes out there and does their job, and I'm very confident that they will.
I wanted to ask you about Keith Marshall, because when I was here a couple of weeks back, I didn't recognize him. He's put some weight on in the right way. He understands that to play in the SEC as a running back, you need to be more physical. He's embraced that challenge.
Oh, definitely. He's put on 10, 15 pounds. He looks good, all muscle. Still has all the speed that he had last year, which is great. And I definitely think he's going to have a great year. Both of those backs are going to have a great year. And it all starts with the offensive line. But, those two are going to be able to shed blocks. If someone misses a block or they bring an extra line or safety into the box, those guys are able to, like I said, break those tackles, those arm tackles, and make some big runs for us.
Aside from the ultimate goal of getting to Pasadena, what is the next goal for you this year?
To get better every week, to really just take it one game at a time and just have some fun.
And that's what Aaron Murray's all about, having some fun. Doesn't feel the pressure coming back. We should also add, as John Newton is here with us, you're going to be live on CBS Atlanta for the postgame show doing sidelines.
Yeah, what are you
You're going to be traveling with Clemson and Georgia that weekend?
You trying to undersell my work over here?
No, absolutely not.
Just radio host.
No, you are radio and television. You are a bon vivant, doing it all.
This is road game number one for me. So with CBS Atlanta, so I'm heading up to Clemson to do that. It should be.
Were they paying you about $5,000 a weekend?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
right in the neighborhood.
Good for
Just
you.
a little bit less than that.
You are making great strides in this business, but looking forward to being there. I'm sure you are, and it's going to be an exciting time. You're going to be doing something prior to the game, though, obviously, with it being an 8:22 kickoff, right?
No, see it doesn't work like that.
Well, how does it work now?
It's funny.
I've been out of the business a while. Things have changed. You've been away a while. They didn't come up there and tell you.
I can't screw up game number one, Nick. That's kind of the idea here. But unfortunately, I'm taking a bus because I didn't know that I was going to be doing this 4 months ago when I signed up to get on a party bus.
You getting out of Greyhound?
No, friends of mine rented a bus to drive us up there. So I'm going to be in the back on my iPad while everybody else is funneling beers about 4 seats ahead of me. That should be interesting.
So you're doing post game then?
Pre.
And I'm confused.
They're going to be on the bus. We're leaving Atlanta at noon.
Oh. So you're going to be doing the pregame show. Then you can start drinking afterwards.
I can, yeah.
So you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Sneak some liquor into the stadium. Liquor, I hardly know her. All right, we've completely come off the
me
rails.
in trouble, man.
This segment, I know. Listen, I got nothing to lose. I'm a gunslinger right now. John Newton is here with us. When we come back, a serious conversation I have with one of the top offensive players on Georgia, Arthur Lynch, tight end. It's offensive interference. Stay with us.
ALS doesn't just kill you. It shuts you down, little by little, bit by bit.
It starts small. Maybe it's holding a pencil that gets difficult.
Or getting up from your chair.
Then you find it hard to turn the pages of your book.
Because you can't move your fingers. Your mind keeps working, but your body doesn't respond.
You won't see it coming because no one knows where it comes from.
Soon you can't hug your mother or pick up your child.
You won't be able to tie your shoes.
You don't need to tie your shoes because now you can't walk.
You can't eat or shave.
Or laugh or sing.
First you can't catch the ball, then you can't catch your breath.
ALS doesn't just kill you.
It steals your life, a little bit at a time.
And it doesn't stop until there's nothing left.
Unless we stop it first.
Unless we stop it now.
I'm James Gleason. Let's put our heads together and find a cure for ALS.
Yeah, we're back here on Offensive Interference. John Newton from 790 The Zone sitting in with me. You're going to be doing the preview show on CBS Atlanta. It's going to be you and Larry Smith and Chris Domino. How you doing? How's your family?
Playing the game of doing some pregame.
Playing the game of doing the pregame show of Mark Richt and Clemson and the game of Taj Boyd. Anyway, you're going to be doing that on Saturday, so you'll be in Clemson, South Carolina. And certainly it's a game everybody's going to be watching, national television game, 8:22 kickoff on Saturday night. Going to hear from Arthur Lynch here in just a second. He and Jay Rome, the tight ends on this Georgia team, and he's going to talk about the plethora of weapons and how patient you have to be. Got to wait your turn in this offense because there are so many weapons for Aaron Murray, who really doesn't feel the pressure when he decided to come back. Even Arthur Lynch, you're going to hear his reaction when he heard the news that Aaron Murray was coming back, but he's just a guy that's still going to have fun on the field and do his thing.
Well, I was just on the phone with another station, not to,
you're a busy man.
Work to do.
When you're a morning show host in a major market, you're in high demand.
And what do you think they asked me in Tampa? They said, well, why can't Aaron Murray win the big game? That's what everybody always wants to talk about. Okay, well, is it Aaron Murray's fault that Georgia loses all these games? No. He came back for a couple of reasons. One, if I were Aaron Murray, I would want to be the all-time passing leader in the SEC, all-time touchdown
He says he
leader.
doesn't care about that stuff, but certainly that's in the back of your mind
Come
someplace, I would imagine.
He's going to get both if he stays healthy, and he has a chance to right that ship, fair or unfair, of people saying he can't win the big game. Guess what? You can stomp a lot of that out right here, week 1, August 31st against Clemson.
And we'll find out if indeed that does happen. I should mention later on this week on Offensive Interference on Friday, had a chance to speak with Peter King. Yes, that Peter King from SI.com, Monday Morning Quarterback, and also Football Night in America. Who does he have in his Super Bowl? He made his predictions, and if you're a Falcons fan, I don't think you're going to be really happy with the prediction as far as how he sees the season ending for the Falcons. It's not good.
We saw a couple of years ago when Peter King did his prediction and he picked the Falcons to go to the Super Bowl. Things didn't end so good. No. That was the Green Bay year, right?
He had the Falcons playing the San Diego Chargers in the Super Bowl. This year,
San Diego didn't make the playoffs, and the Falcons got blown out at home against the Packers.
So, for what it's worth, he says he hates doing these predictions, but they make him, his bosses do it. So, Peter King on Friday.
What, at gunpoint?
Right here on Offensive Interference. We all have to make our predictions. Now, you're not going to look at the schedule and go win, loss, but I do agree with Peter King in his assessment of the Falcons. I think they're going to go 10-6 this year.
That's fine. Go 10-6. I don't care what you do in the regular season as long as it gets you to the postseason. The thing is, the Falcons have to be able to win when it gets into crunch time. And I don't believe in this, similar to Aaron Murray, I don't believe in this Matt Ryan can't win the big game.
Well, that's the question. Is he a February quarterback? That's
also explain this to me. Why is a game in February in the playoffs really that different from a clutch, an important game in the middle of the season? It's really not.
Well, it is because if you
played on a football field.
Not really, because if you lose, your season's over. Okay. And then everybody's pointing at you. Listen,
There's a reason that the Falcons weren't able to beat the San Francisco 49ers last year, and that's that they had the 29th best rushing offense in the league.
They couldn't run the ball, and Michael Turner goes out of that game with a sprained ankle. I agree. If the running game is there, they can chew up some clock. but you can't throw interceptions and fumble
I agree.
shotgun snaps like Matt Ryan did either.
I agree.
Because people are going to start, the naysayers, the critics are going to point the finger at Matt Ryan even more at that point.
Maybe it's because we're here and we see in Atlanta and we get to hear more of the Matt Ryan criticism probably than anyone else does. But I don't know if there's another quarterback in the top 7 or 8 quarterbacks in this league that takes more heat than Ryan does, because there are a lot of people that consider him one of the best football minds at the quarterback position, one of the hardest workers. He does all of the right things, but then still takes a lot of heat for throwing an interception here or there in crucial moments, or having his team fall behind like he did late to the Seahawks in that first playoff game the Falcons played in last year. Similar to Aaron Murray, are those really all of Matt Ryan's fault? Sometimes no, fair or unfair. Now, does he need to perform better in big games? Yes. I think Mike Mularkey leaving and opening up Dirk Cutter to come in and be Matt Ryan's offense coordinator has made a world of difference. Matt Ryan was slinging it last year and looked like an MVP quarterback the first 6 or 7 games of the season. Then Arizona came along and some things changed. But for a while, he looked like a different quarterback, and I think all he needed was a different change of pace and a different coordinator.
I know it's only the preseason, and we'll talk more Falcons as the season nears. Of course, next weekend in New Orleans, the season opens up. But Lamar Holmes, I think Derek Morgan thought he was back at Georgia Tech playing against Duke, the way Lamar Holmes played him in that game.
It wasn't pretty. And I know it was an unfortunate injury with Mike Johnson going down, and there's no real solution to that. You bring in Jeff Nady to kind of compete during the preseason.
Great Jeff Nady.
I'm sorry, Nick, the great Jeff Nady.
Again, we'll talk more Falcons a little bit later on in the week, into next week. Peter King is going to join us on Friday here on Offensive Interference. But right now, my conversation with Georgia tight end Arthur Lynch. You know Aaron probably as well as anybody on this team, and you were pretty surprised after that loss to Alabama that he decided to come back.
I wasn't surprised personally. I think a lot of people were because he's had so much success. But I mean, I was leaning more towards the fact that he was coming. Because of the fact that I just know what he came to Georgia for, why he chose this school over dozens and dozens of other ones. Because I think he felt that this was the best place for him to build a career and also to put himself in a position to win a national championship. And he's not about individual accolades. Sure, he would love to, be a Heisman, Davey O'Brien winner, All-American, but he understands that, winning a national championship is what ultimately defines you as a quarterback. And I think he's got everything else that he needs on his resume to be seen as one of those elite guys of all time, and he really wants that championship. And that's what he's chased. And he's been chasing, as have we, him more so than anyone else. And I think that was the deciding factor in whether or not he was going to come back.
The upperclassmen, you guys are the leaders on this team. You've been there. You've done just about everything. How important is it for you to convey that message to some of the younger players? Because I heard you talk about the fact that, yes, you opened with Clemson, but South Carolina's waiting in the wings, too.
Yeah, I think you got to put things in perspective. You can't overlook Clemson because it's a game. It's an SEC caliber opponent in an SEC atmosphere. They're ready to go. They're pumped up. But so are we. We're ready. We really think we have a good shot of coming out here with a victory if we do what we know we're capable of. But I mean, in the hindsight of things, it's an ACC opponent, a non-league opponent, and we realize we're in the SEC, and that's where the battleground is won in terms of winning the league championship. So we can't let, whether we win or lose, we can't let our emotions get the best of us that Sunday. We have to get right back to preparing. We have a 3-day weekend. We'll be able to have Monday off and kind of prepare for South Carolina. But it's tough because when you have two games that are going to be very your emotions are going to be at an all-time high. You know what's at stake from a national standpoint in the first game, but not only do you have that same kind of type of game in terms of a national spotlight in the second game, but you also realize that if you don't win that, you're behind the eight ball in terms of your league play, especially SEC East. And they've had that kind of upper hand on us the past 3 years. So even this year more than ever, we really need to have a turnaround, a fast turnaround, and not let. And have roll our blinders on, not look at the past, because whether we win or we lose, we got another one 7 days later.
Well, they say patience is a virtue. I think patience has to really be a virtue in this offense. So many weapons. I guess you kind of have to wait your turn at times.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking from an individual standpoint, I think for us, and I think our coaches understand this as well. Is we got 2 guys that can run the ball extremely well, and I think we have a veteran offensive line. You want that when you have when you kind of have a kind of version quarterback out there, a kid that doesn't understand, not yet used to the scene. But since we have, a veteran guy who's been proving himself under center as well, we have a very good chance of being a balanced offense, and I think that's going to be the key for us, throughout the year, but especially in game one when you got, I think a run game, with those tough runs and 3rd and 4 when you break one for 8 yards if we run, that really can silence the stadium, and I think people don't underestimate the idea of like home field advantage. Like it's especially when you play places like Death Valley or South Carolina or Tennessee, that can really be like the 12th man, so to speak, and I think that's what we need to do is try to garner momentum in our favor early on and try to take away their emotion or aspect of the game, because it's going to be a war zone over there, and hopefully we can try to contain it.
I'm not looking for you to give away the game plan, but they hope to run about 90 plays in this game. Ball control, you talked about the running game, silence in the stadium, also maybe giving your defense a rest as well could be very important in this one.
No, definitely. And I think, you never want to, apologize for scoring. But I think there were times last year where unintentionally offense, just because of the playmakers we had, we were scoring fast, we were scoring quick, and it did put our defense at a disadvantage. Not that we were trying to do that on purpose, but it's just one of those things. It's, when you run a lead backside and you're expecting 8 yards, you got number 3 taking 70. Right. It's just like, you don't want to tell them to take a knee at 20, it's just not something you do. So I think, game control, that's a big deal. But I also think that if we can control the momentum and the atmosphere, which is not an easy task, it'll put us in a very good, substantial position to win the game. But then again, it's easier said than done.
I didn't recognize Keith Marshall when I saw him a couple of weeks ago. Here's a guy that's 10, 15 pounds heavier, working in the weight room. He understood that to be an SEC back, you got to get bigger and stronger. He's embraced that challenge, it seems.
No, definitely. I mean, his arms are something that came out of nowhere, but it came from hard work, and he's a guy who is about 220 now. And, obviously Todd's, he's a different specimen. He's about 235. Right. And that's even the best thing is when you have 2 guys and one guy who's trying to be even more durable, it's not one guy that's taking all the carries, will really help us out in the long run, especially in those kind of 3rd, 4th quarters when the game's grinding and we need some, tough yardage. And I think, again, I think all football teams, have to rely heavily on, kind of the run game. Obviously some run games have a slip screen or this and that, and that's kind of their substitute. Like the Patriots, for instance, they do those kind of screens, and that's technically their run play sometimes. But I think for us, that's going to be a big key. Is those 2 guys being durable, being healthy, and running hard, and they've done nothing but show that over the past year, really. And for Keith even more, he came early, so I think that's going to be a big part of our offense this year.
It seems like when you look at this team heading into this opener, and obviously the offseason, we hear full attendance all the time, but there really was full attendance at the offseason workouts this year. This seems like a team in every sense of the word.
Yeah, I think there's still some, leaders that we need to come up and be a little more vocal. That's just every team. More guys will come over, lead differently. I think a guy like Sean Williams would just always lead by example on the field. He'd make plays when plays would be made. That was a perfect example of a guy. He wasn't as vocal, but you knew by the effort he put out on the field that was his type of leadership. But I think the team chemistry we have here and kind of like the family atmosphere. I don't know if it's the coaches rubbing off on us or if it's just we all really do like each other's company that much. I think that's going to really go a long way when we're in a 4th quarter battle and we're down by 1 and we know we can trust the guys to our left and our right. And I think that I can honestly say that, whether we win 14 games or we lose all of them, I can say that this team has been as close as any other team I've been on since I've been here. It feels like I've been on 25 teams and I've been here for a long time. Yeah. So I can say that with confidence, and I think that's a pretty good attribute to have as a football team.
Well, good luck on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Arthur Lynch with us here on Offensive Interference. Great kid.
Yeah, I think that's kind of his MO. If you remember when Murray's house got rolled, now he did live there too. When I think it was Robinson, Murray, and Lynch's house got rolled, Arthur Lynch was out in the driveway while everybody else was on some break or whatever, cleaning up the toilet paper. Everybody gave him credit for doing it, but people then found out, oh wait, he lived there too, so no wonder he was cleaning up the toilet paper. But everything you've always heard about Arthur Lynch is he's a great kid, but can he play? This year, he's coming back, and most people think he's a top 10 returning tight end in the country, so we'll see. The Georgia's got two of them. They got J. Rome and him, both who can really play tight end.
Well, we go from a highly functional human being to the heart of dysfunction. We are broadcasting from the Punchline Studios in Sandy Springs, Georgia, and the Punchline had to deal with one hell of an event concerning one really large comic this past weekend. We'll tell you that story when Offensive Interference comes back.
The Governor's Mansion, the St. Regis Hotel, and now Oxygen Financial. We are all located on West Paces Ferry Road. Come spend an hour with one of our private CFOs and get a financial plan in place for your future. Go to oxygenfinancial.net to set up a meeting today.
Back here on Offensive Interference. Now, this is TNC, a takeoff of TMZ, and you could follow us at OI Nick Cellini. That's the Offensive Interference Twitter handle, at Cellini Nick. What's your handle on Twitter?
At JT Newton. How soon you forget, Nick.
I follow you all the time. I respond to you. I'm a big fan of yours. John Pinette. A lot of people, huge fans of John Pinette. He was on TMZ, as was the Punchline, and it wasn't for really any good reasons.
Wait, was he on TMZ because he had a great set here?
No, he didn't have a great set at all. In fact, he missed a few sets, and the set was supposed to be 60 minutes. A couple of them were cut short to like 30 minutes because John Pinette was higher than a kite. Wasn't making any sense on stage. And not only John Pinette's now in rehab.
Not only did he cut his hour sets in half, he didn't show up till like a day and a half after he was supposed to be here. So they just had to cancel 2 shows that he was supposed to be on stage for, and people just had to, if they had to get a refund or come back a few days later and see him later Sunday afternoon.
I guess he had that fat person surgery, whatever it's called. The band, the tummy tuck.
Gastric bypass.
All right, that.
Yeah.
You eat the gastric, and it's only the bypass that's left, or something along those lines. So he's still close to 300 pounds, but he's
like half his size.
Well, at his peak, he was around 5 bills. But I guess here's my summation, if I may give you my professional medical opinion. He was probably taking the same stuff years ago. Now he's much lighter.
Right.
And he's taking the same stuff.
Now it's way too much. That's
Correct.
a good point. We were trying to figure this out a minute ago. I think you just nailed it. Also, fat people, that's their shtick. Just stick with it. You don't need to get skinny. Remember when David Wells tried to lose some weight? He wasn't the same pitcher.
No, he wasn't.
And I know pitching and comedy, are two different things, but it just goes to show you, if you're fat and that's your shtick, don't get away from it.
No.
David Wells needed the weight, and so did John Pinette.
Brian McCann, he lost weight. What happened? He got hurt. He wasn't the same. He got fatter again this year. He's hitting the cover off the baseball. Sometimes you're better off being what you are. Words to live by. Now, I don't know what the credo for Miley Cyrus is as of late. I know a lot of people are talking about this, but what the hell was going on during the VMAs?
Let me shed some light on this. So, what this twerking is? You've seen this in the news. That's every news' buzzword this week. Twerking. Now, Miley Cyrus, she just picked up on this. This is old news. The Yin Yang Twins from Atlanta, they had this in a song back in the early 2000s. This isn't a new term. It's gotten kind of brought back into the fold in not pop music, but in kind of in the rap game, if you will, Nick Cellini.
The rap game.
In the rap game. And so Miley Cyrus is on stage dancing around at the VMAs, and this makes the news. It's really not that big.
Well, here's my point, though.
She's a shock jock up on stage at the VMAs.
But if you're gonna, what's it called, twerking?
Twerking, yeah.
If you're gonna twerk, do it right. She looked like a drunk girl at a frat party.
Well, she
making a fool out of herself.
She lacks some of the necessary physical attributes. No, twerking is generally for women with large bottoms.
Yeah, buttocks, if you will.
Buttocks.
I was wounded in the buttocks. But what's with the tongue out?
That's not part of the game here. I went to a show at MJQ a couple months ago with one of my degenerate friends.
What's MJQ?
It's a club in Atlanta. It's been around for like 20 years. You've been here long enough. It's underground. It's tiny.
Yeah.
I go down there.
There's a reason I haven't been there.
We show
underground and tiny.
We show up at 11:30, and I'm like, why is nobody else here? We paid money to see this DJ you want to see play. I'm just along for the ride.
That's not the guy with the mouse head, is it?
No. Come very close, though. Fast forward an hour, I
want to hit that guy with a bat.
500 people slammed into this place, and I've got 19-year-old Latin girls up on the wall doing the little twerking business. I left. My life has been changed ever since. I'll never be the same.
It's an 18 and over club?
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing in there?
I don't know, man. I went with a buddy of mine to see a DJ play. I told him a few weeks ago, I said, what happened that, like, me witnessing all that night, I didn't do anything wrong, but I feel bad about something. Didn't do anything wrong, still feel bad about it. This twerking, it's old news.
And
Miley Cyrus she's trying to be shocking. She's doing the whole Madonna deal.
Yeah, but Madonna actually
I know.
Talent.
Right. Miley.
I don't know what was going on. And then you had, what's his name, Mr. Thick coming out. I almost said Alan Thicke, his father.
What if Alan Thicke came out? That's entertaining.
What if he would have come out singing his son's song? Now that's entertaining.
Have you seen that?
Did he just escape from prison? What was that suit he had?
I don't know.
Or Beetlejuice.
This would be right up your alley.
It's pretty good
though.
look for me.
The Robin Thicke blurred line. The song's awful, but have you seen the video for it?
I have. I like the video, but then he comes out. I don't really. She had that foam finger, like she was at a Georgia Tech game. I don't know what was going on. The whole thing made no sense at all.
It was a spectacle, to say the least. You know
whether you like Taylor Swift or not, at least the kid writes her own songs.
Oh, he's talented.
And goes up there and performs. I don't know what Miley Cyrus does anymore.
You know that set the record since Twitter has been in existence for most tweets per minute.
She broke Twitter.
She broke Beyonce's previous record from the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Miley Cyrus twerking is Twitter's all-time. That doesn't say much about our society in general.
Then I guess Billy Ray, her daddy, said he didn't really have a problem with it. It's entertainment. Let the haters hate. My little girl, she's on drugs and she's a slut, but I love her.
Here's the
achy,
problem.
breaky heart. Someone please pay attention to me.
Here's the problem with Billy Ray Cyrus. He's said this all along. He can't go back on what. Now anything's fair game. What's next?
I'm going to go up there and kiss my daughter. Kiss her on the mouth. Achy, breaky heart. Someone please follow me on Twitter, buy my albums, buy my CD.
He's not hurting for money. He's getting.
Well, let me just end the program with this. I love crazy.
I know.
Listen,
yes, you do.
I've always been attracted to crazy. I've always been intrigued by crazy. But this form of crazy, this is like crap your pants crazy. I can't identify with the Miley Cyrus crazy. I can identify with the Lindsay Lohan crazy.
What's the other girl?
I'm going to smoke some cigarettes and we're going to do the 2 Fs. Fighting's one of them, and then we're going to do the other F.
What's the other crazy one?
This is like, again, I had an accident in my pants crazy. I don't have any interest in that. You know what I mean? I just crapped in the bathtub crazy. I don't need that in my life.
For you to say something is pushing your limits as a person.
And I have no limits.
From knowing you for going on 4 years now, that's saying something.
I'm pretty much limitless, but that, I can't identify with that. What does she have, like a June Carter tattoo on her body, too? Is that what that says?
Is it June Carter?
I think I don't know. I think that's what it said. Who knows? Anyway, John Newton, thank you for coming by.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
On Friday, I will not talk Miley Cyrus or twerking with Peter King from SI and Football Night in America.
He might enjoy you talking twerking.
Well, Peter King is going to be joining us on Friday, so Brandon Adams is going to be joining us as well. Stay tuned for that. Have fun in Clemson this weekend.
We got to root these dogs through.
We'll be watching you on CBS.
Unbiased.
Your family, Chris Domino, and Larry Smith, he of the pencil-thin mustache, all on CBS Atlanta on Saturday. Offensive Interference, we're back on Friday. Thanks as always for listening, and tell a friend or 8,000.